Battle through the firmament. Grand world. Chapter 386 Provoke. 5 months was but an instant in the illusory spirit space, which had existed for millions of years. The world remained shrouded in black fog, obscuring vision. The ground was a treacherous swamp, where monsters could emerge from the mist without warning. Xiao, what's our next move? Xiaoyan communicated telepathically, his gaze sharp as he scanned the surroundings. Carelessness here could be fatal. Before entering, he had consulted Xiao, whose miraculous memory and Wu Shaoqi's knowledge of the major yin meridians made navigating this directionless place possible. Swoosh, a flash of light. Xiao, still in its small form, perched on Xiaoyan's shoulder, its large eyes darting around. After a moment, it pointed decisively. There, it's close. We'll reach it soon. Nodding, Xiaoyan channeled his origin key, flames flickering in his palm as he dashed in the indicated direction, ready for any ambush. Sizzle, sizzle. Black key swirled in the air, and the swamp bubbled ominously. Mid-sprint, Xiaoyan's foot sank into the mire, dragging him down to his waist. With a powerful twist, he freed himself. Monarch spirit-level monsters lurked along the path, but Xiaoyan dispatched them with single punches, ignoring their scattered origin beads. For his current cultivation, even 10 Emperor tier beads wouldn't make a dent. These weaker spirits were worthless now. After an indeterminate time, the Wu Yin meridian loomed ahead, a canyon veiled in black key, as mysterious as it was perilous. This was where Wu Shaoqi and the devil ape had clashed 5 months prior. Wu Shaoqi arrived shortly after. At her level, few monsters posed a threat, and she, too, disregarded the origin beads. Exchanging a nod, Xiaoyan led the way into the canyon, crimson gold flames coiled around his palms, his soul power scouting ahead. Wu Shaoqi followed closely, alert to every rustle. Here, anything that moved was an enemy. The tunnel passed without incident, revealing the same boiling sea of blood. No monsters emerged. The Blood Eye had expended too much energy sending Wu Shaoqi to the ancient expert's tomb, leaving little for the 5 elemental origins extraction formation to spawn threats. Can you sense it? Xiaoyan asked, watching the churning blood. Wu Shaoqi closed her eyes, then opened them with a spark of excitement. Yes, faint, but clearer than outside. Xiaoyan smiled. Her mastering the Fire Emperor scripture sooner would only bolster Yunlo Academy's chances in the 4 academies competition. How will you cultivate? Wu Shaoqi asked softly, unwilling to hinder his progress. Let me ask first. Xiaoyan's cryptic reply baffled her. Ask who? Qi. Monarch flames engulfed Xiaoyan as he knelt by the blood sea, plunging his hand into the corrosive liquid. Pain seared through him, but he clenched his fist, releasing a burst of flame. The sea trembled violently. Boom! The blood surged, coalescing into a massive eye that fixed its terrifying gaze on Xiaoyan. Wu Shaoqi gasped but quickly steadied herself, piecing things together. It's you. Have you reached Emperor cultivation? The blood eye rumbled, its voice eager. Not yet, but with your help, I can get there faster, Xiaoyan replied coolly. Speak. I need a place rich in origin key. You brat, do I look like the master of this realm? The eye roared, still weakened from aiding Wu Shaoqi. Xiaoyan smirked. Restore my monarch flames, and the body I craft for you will be stronger, perhaps even hasten your recovery. He turned to leave. Wait, is that true? Of course. The eye hesitated, then growled, fine. But betray me, and you'll beg for death. Joy surged in Xiaoyan's heart. I'll send you to the heart of the illusory spirit space, where fallen experts' origin monarch crystals linger. The key there is trapped but potent. The eye's voice turned grave. Remember, this drains my life. If I die, so do you. Xiaoyan touched his forehead, where the blood origin seed pulsed. Humph! The eye split the space open, revealing chaotic spatial cracks. One more thing. Take care of my friend, Xiaoyan said, gesturing to Wu Shaoqi. Call the seed when you wish to return. The eye's breathing grew labored. With a final nod to Wu Shaoqi, Xiaoyan leaped into the crack and vanished. Wu Shaoqi watched him go, then found a secluded spot to immerse herself in the Fire Emperor scripture. The blood eye glared at her before collapsing back into the diminished sea. Chapter End. Battle Through the Firmament. Grand World. Chapter 387 An Ancient Legacy. What entered his eyes was a dusky space. Powerful origin monic kiss were overflowing in all directions, causing Xiaoyan, who had just appeared, to feel suffocated. He was almost hit to the ground. What is this place? Xiaoyan raised his head and looked over. His sharp soul force was completely useless in this place. It could not penetrate through at all. He could only rely on his eyes to size it up. In the distance, the origin monic kiss were even denser, and they were viscous into liquid form. After carefully feeling it for a moment, the wild joy in Xiaoyan's eyes instantly disappeared. The origin monic key in this place could not be absorbed and refined at all. This caused Xiaoyan's idea of cultivating here to fail. The Xiaoao appeared on Xiaoyan's shoulder at this moment. He looked around in shock and couldn't help but exclaim. The origin monic key here is actually so dense. It's almost the same as all the origin kiss stored within a saint body. As he spoke, the Xiaoao's small hand made a grabbing motion in the void. Its small nose moved, and it stuck out its tongue. Xiaoyan, the origin monic kiss here aren't suitable for your cultivation. These origin monic kiss have been here for a long time, and they were also left behind by the ancient experts. Perhaps there are some strange changes. Xiaoyan nodded his head and pondered for a moment. He took out the storage ring that Elder Yi had left behind. The dark black spiritual light on the storage ring flickered continuously. The ancient ruins on the storage ring were mottled. It was obvious that it had been tempered by the passage of time. Xiaoyan sent his soul force into the storage ring and carefully took out a rusty oil lamp. On the wick of the lamp, there was a rusty oil lamp. There was a blue flame that looked like it was about to be extinguished. The flame was like a demonic drop of water that trembled when Xiaoyan took it out, as if it would disappear at any moment. Xiaoyan's heart trembled when he saw it. The blue flame was the monic flame that Elder Yi once possessed. Refining monic High Tianyan was ranked 24th on the monic flame. This drop of water was refining monic High Tianyan's sovereign fire source, and it had suffered a great loss. After hesitating for a moment, Xiaoyan gritted his teeth. He covered his palm with the origin key and slowly took the flame out from the wick. He looked at the vortex-like origin monic key and finally steeled his heart. He pushed the flame into the middle of the vortex. At this moment, Xiaoyan was also gambling. If he succeeded, it would be the rebirth of a monic flame. If he failed, refining monic High Tianyan would completely disappear from this world. 1,000 years later, in a certain corner of the great world. Perhaps he would be born again, just like what Elder Yi had said. Sacred objects were all inheriting the will of the great world, and only one of them would dissipate. The next one would appear. There were no two similar holy objects in the world. Weng, the blue water droplet was pushed to the center of the origin key whirlpool like a weak wind. The huge origin key instantly rushed over and completely covered it. Under Xiaoyan's nervous gaze, the last trace of blue light dissipated with a loud bang and was wrapped by the origin key layer by layer. Xiaoyan's heart thumped when he saw the blue light dissipate. His facial expression changed dramatically. The Xiaoao could only smack its tongue when it saw this. It thought to itself that Xiaoyan was too reckless. The sovereign fire source of a monic flame had just vanished from the world just like that. While Xiaoyan was secretly furious, a glaring blue light suddenly shone from the center of the origin key whirlpool. After that, the sound of roaring waves suddenly resounded in the sky. In a trance, Xiaoyan saw a boundless blue ocean. Huge waves that could destroy the heaven and earth surged over, as if they were going to shatter thousands of worlds. As the waves surged, all things that dared to block them were completely crushed. Woo! Xiaoyan quickly recovered his senses. In the center of the origin key vortex, a drop of strange blue water was rotating slowly. It was like a hungry wolf that was choosing to devour its prey, crazily absorbing all the origin monic kiss. It succeeded. Seeing that the drop of water was safe and sound, The Xiaoao was somewhat dumbfounded. This was the first time he had seen the sovereign fire source recover in such a way. It should be. Xiaoyan took a deep breath. His hanging heart had finally calmed down. Even though he had gone through countless trials and tribulations, the scene just now had scared him to death. Chi chi chi. Xiaoyan could clearly feel the flow of the origin monic kiss beside him even from a distance. All of them were rushing towards the blue water droplet. In just a moment, Xiaoyan could feel that the surrounding origin monic kiss seemed to have become a little thinner. That's good. The Xiaoao also relaxed and gently exhaled. Xiaoyan calmed down and looked around again. As the origin monic key became thinner, he could see more places. When he saw a place, his eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. Where he looked, he saw a huge axe that was the size of a mountain. It was quietly being corroded by the rust of time. The handle of the axe was broken. Although it was protected by the origin monic key, it had lost its original power and turned into a pile of scrap metal. Such a powerful weapon. Could it be that the ancient experts have the giant tribe? Xiaoyan widened his eyes and looked at the mountain axe at the end of his line of sight as he mumbled to himself. It's not a giant tribe. It should be an extraordinary expert of the barbarian region. The expert amongst them can turn his body into the size of a mountain. He can be considered the strongest tribe in the great world. The Xiaoao swallowed a mouthful of water. In the past, he had only heard of it. This was the first time he had seen such a large weapon, and it shocked him. To be able to survive for so long, he should have at least reached the level of a sacred artifact. What a pity, what a pity. The Xiaoao was filled with regret. Even sacred artifacts had become a pile of scrap metal. Even the true supreme saint had turned into dust in the passage of time. Xiaoyan nodded silently. Although the ultimate saint expert was immortal, it referred to the seed of the soul. The physical body and even the soul would still dissipate. Only the consciousness would remain. However, in this place, no matter how powerful the consciousness was, it would ultimately scatter into all things, allowing all things to obtain a trace of spirituality. Xiaoyan's body moved, and he slowly walked forward. Refining Monic Hai Tianyan's recovery temporarily did not need him, and he was unable to cultivate here. He could only walk around and see for himself. Perhaps there would be some ancient expert left behind. Xiaoyan, look! The Xiaoao suddenly cried out. Xiaoyan looked in the direction of his finger and saw a huge dragon floating at the end of his line of sight. The huge dragon had a ferocious face, and its body looked like it was made of molten iron. It was filled with unparalleled strength. Even though they were thousands of miles away, Xiaoyan could still feel the coldness coming from the scales of the huge dragon. This is probably the descendant of the 4 spirits from the previous generations, and its body is incomparably strong. That's why its body didn't dissipate like a human's. It's a pity that it's already a dried corpse. Otherwise, if I could obtain a drop of blood essence, the Azure Dragon Arts would definitely be able to reach the level of the Holy Arts. The Xiaoao let out a regretful sigh. He mumbled to himself. Xiaoyan smiled bitterly when he heard this. Even if he didn't become a dried corpse, it was difficult for him to even walk with every step he took here. How could he fly to the dragon's side? Even if he could, how could he fly to the dragon's side? With his little ability, could he even bleed the dragon? Just based on his feeling, the toughness of the dragon's body was far beyond that of the dark golden beast, perhaps even a Monic cultivation warrior. Hong Long, shaking his head, Xiaoyan once again walked forward. He was blocked by the thick origin Monic key. Every step he took consumed a lot of energy. After walking for about half an hour, Xiaoyan once again saw something drifting in the air. It was only a few steps away from Xiaoyan, but it looked rather familiar. It was a millstone-sized iron ore. Starlight flickered on it, but it was not damaged at all. There were exactly 2 pieces of this kind of fine iron ore in Xiaoyan's storage ring. Chapter N. Battle Through the Firmament. Grand World. Chapter 388 Mysterious Altar. The refined iron ore quietly floated in front of Xiaoyan, as if it was a sacred object that had transcended the mortal world. Starlight emerged, and at a glance, it looked extremely profound. Numerous profound patterns were inscribed on it, and it was filled with an inexplicable feeling. Shaoyan hesitated for a moment, and the origin key on his palm surged. He took a few steps forward and firmly grabbed the refined iron ore in his hand. The moment he grabbed the iron ore, Shaoyan immediately felt a violent disturbance coming from the storage ring between his fingers. In the next moment, the storage ring directly shattered. A pile of items appeared out of thin air. A refined iron ore rushed out from a brocade box. It impaled a corner of the refined iron ore in front of him without any blemishes. Shaoyan looked at the refined iron ore in front of him with a shocked expression. With this embedding, the charm of the entire ore became even more complicated. An indescribable feeling reverberated in Shaoyan's heart. The Xiaoao, which was sitting on Shaoyan's shoulder, also locked its gaze on this ore. It took a long while before it finally spoke in a somewhat hesitant manner. Shaoyan, this shape looks very familiar. Shaoyan nodded with a solemn expression. This piece of ore was extremely similar to a ruler. On it was engraved a mysterious pattern, as if it was written with tens of thousands of truths. If there is a ruler's handle that is a bit longer, it would be completely a huge ruler. Shaoyan took the ore over with great effort. He rubbed the top and bottom of the ore with his palm, and sure enough, there were traces of it being damaged. Shaoyan, you must keep this thing well. I have a feeling that something is unusual. With a flash in his eyes, the Xiaoao said with a serious expression. This was the first time his words were so serious. I know. Shaoyan nodded with a solemn expression. This iron mine had appeared in various places over and over again, and even here. It was destined to be extraordinary. He put away the huge stele, freed up a storage ring, and then picked up everything. Shaoyan looked into the distance once again. This space seemed endless, and he had no idea where it ended. After walking for less than 100 steps, he had already used up more than half of the origin monic key in his body. Sure enough, this was not a place an ordinary person could stay. Shaking his head, Shaoyan decided to turn around and go back. Although he was filled with endless curiosity about this space, he still had to act according to his own ability. If the origin monic key was used up, and he was trapped in some place, then it would really be hard for him to do anything. Just as Shaoyan turned around and was about to leave, the little nose of the Xiaoao suddenly wrinkled as if it had sensed something. The little hand immediately grabbed Shaoyan's hair and said, "Don't go back yet. There seems to be something in front of us." Shaoyan smiled bitterly and was about to explain to the Xiaoao when the Xiaoao stared blankly into the distance and said softly, "Why do I feel that the injuries in my body have improved a little?" What? Shaoyan was clearly shocked when he heard what the Xiaoao said. Immediately, he turned around and looked into the distance. Without any hesitation, he took a step forward. If there was really something that could heal the injuries in the Xiaoao's body, Shaoyan would not hesitate to move forward no matter how dangerous the environment was. "Can you feel what it is?" Shaoyan said softly. The origin monic key here had become extremely dense once again. Even one's sight could not see far. They could only rely on the feeling of the Xiaoao to move forward. "I don't know." The Xiaoao frowned slightly. That feeling made him not know how to say it out loud. After thinking for a while, the Xiaoao's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly said, "I remember now. This was the feeling of a formation. There is a big formation ahead. You must be careful." Formation. Shaoyan was shocked at first, then he nodded. In this strange space, Shaoyan wouldn't find anything strange. If it's really a formation, then it means that someone had entered this place during the ancient times. Otherwise, they wouldn't have turned a blind eye to these things. The Xiaoao pondered for a moment before speaking. Then, it thought of the dried corpse of the giant dragon. No matter what, it was a holy beast. Even the scale armor on its body was an inestimable treasure. Does this mean that this formation has a longer time than this spatial zone? Shaoyan's heart skipped a beat. It's possible. The Xiaoao could not think of a reason. It knocked its head and muttered. Seeing this, Xiaoyan did not say anything else. His heart was filled with energy towards the unknown ahead. Although after so many years, even a supreme saint would die. Not to mention other things, who knew what would happen in this mysterious place. Around an hour later, Xiaoyan finally passed through the dense origin key fog. The origin monic kiss within his body were almost completely exhausted. When the origin key in front of him slowly dissipated, what appeared in front of him was an incomparably huge altar. The altar was extremely majestic, like a majestic palace. There were many stone statues carved on the altar. They stood in different directions, as if they were maintaining a grand formation. However, the erosion of time had already caused these stone statues to be in tatters. Even though they were in such a mysterious space, they were still unable to escape the power of time. Xiaoyan carefully walked up to the altar and looked at the various stone statues. Some of the stone statues only had their arms broken, but he could still recognize them. There were men and women, old men and young men among the stone statues. Judging from the material of the statues, it was obvious that they were of extraordinary quality. However, they didn't have any spirituality, and were lifeless. They had completely turned into stone puppets. After a careful count, including some of the collapsed stone statues, there were a total of 108 stone statues on the altar. The position they were standing at felt strange, but Xiaoyan could not tell what was going on. Such a big investment. Building such a huge altar here, one person definitely can't build it by himself. Looks like this should be a sect. Shaking his little head, the Xiaoao had its own way of doing things, even though he didn't believe it himself. This altar has existed for such a long time. It must be a world-shocking formation, but unfortunately, it has no effect at all. Xiaoyan stood up, his eyes swept across the entire altar and said with a sigh. Under the guidance of the Xiaoao, Xiaoyan went straight to the center of the altar. In the middle of a formation that no longer had any spiritual energy, there was a cracked beast core. Another useless thing. Seeing this beast core, the Xiaoao curled its lips. A beast core that could maintain this formation was at least a sant core. Unfortunately, it had already become a useless piece of wood. As he spoke, the Xiaoao jumped down from Xiaoyan's shoulder. The flames around its body began to grow. With a special feeling, the Xiaoao suddenly punched out and violently smashed onto the circular formation. A crack actually appeared on the formation. The crack had just appeared when it instantly spread out. In the next moment, following a rumbling sound, the formation directly shattered, revealing the mysterious foundation of the formation below. Within the array base, 5 saint nuclei were embedded in the 5 corners, providing the array with an endless amount of energy. But now, it had already lost all effect. Ignoring the 5 sacred cores, the Xiaoao's eyes stared intently at the center of the array base. There was a black bone the size of an arm standing there quietly. Occasionally, a spiritual light flashed on the bone, but it had yet to lose its spirituality. This is. The Xiaoao's eyes revealed endless shock. Xiaoyan looked at it curiously. With just a glance, he seemed to have locked onto Xiaoyan's soul. It was as if his body had been frozen on the spot. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. Dragon soul bone. After opening his mouth, the Xiaoao finally spoke with a trembling voice. Sweat even dripped down from his forehead. At the same time, the shock in his eyes was quickly replaced by wild joy. This time, whether it was Xiaoyan or himself, they had profited greatly. Chapter End. Battle Through the Firmament. Grand World. Chapter 389 Dragon Soul Bone. The Xiaoao excitedly looked at Xiaoyan. He saw that the latter was staring at the dragon soul bone in front of the array with lifeless eyes. It was as if his soul had sunk into it. The Xiaoao suddenly woke up and looked around. After which, it took off its clothes and covered the dragon's soul bone. The endless light in front of him seemed to have suddenly disappeared. Xiaoyan's eyes gradually focused. It was a long time before he regained consciousness. He blinked his eyes. Xiaoyan hurriedly took a step back. and looked at the black bone that was covered by the Xiao's clothes. His heart was instantly filled with thousands of wild waves. What exactly was this thing? With just a glance, his soul was about to sink into it. His consciousness almost dissipated. What is this thing? Xiaoyan sucked in a breath of cold air with lingering fear. He looked at the Xiao and asked, if this thing was used to deal with enemies, it would be an invisible killing weapon. This is a great thing. Seeing that Xiaoyan was fine, the Xiao chuckled. His brows were in high spirits, and it was difficult to conceal the excitement in his voice. This thing is called the Dragon's Soul Bone. I don't know the exact origin of this thing, but the old man has always dreamt of this thing. Today, he actually found it here. It really is a treasure land. The Xiao clicked its tongue in admiration. It looked at the surrounding stone statues and was even more surprised by the existence of the altar. Using a dragon's soul bone as the eye of the formation was a huge investment. Compared to the dragon's soul bone, the centaurs were not enough. Something that even teachers dream of. Hearing the Xiao's words, Xiaoyan was even more shocked. He couldn't help but look at the thing that was covered by clothes. What kind of ability did this bone have that made the ultimate saint expert think about it day and night? That's right. The old man also told me that the dragon's soul bone is the most important thing when one's soul force breaks through from the ancient stage to the sage realm. The Xiao's eyes were burning with passion as he spoke. Sage realm. Xiaoyan's chest felt like it was about to explode when he heard these two words. Does it also have the effect of healing your injuries? Xiaoyan's heart moved. He immediately looked at the Xiao, and spoke in an urgent manner. The injuries of the Xiao were the most important compared to the illusory soul of the sage realm. Yes. The Xiao showed a brilliant smile to Xiaoyan and said firmly. He was extremely touched that someone cared about him so much. The origin of dragon's soul bones is extremely rare. Only a few experts of the dragon race have dragon soul bones. I didn't even have one in my previous life. He curled his lips. The Xiao spoke again. This is a special soul bone of the dragon race. It is most suitable for recovering the original injuries. As long as you absorb the dragon key within, it will be enough. It won't cause any harm to it. Therefore, you can use it to upgrade your soul power in the future. The Xiao giggled. It could heal its own injuries and enhance Xiaoyan's strength at the same time. Today, their luck was extremely good. All right, you should recover your strength first. Hearing the firm words of the Xiao, Xiaoyan felt relieved in his heart and said with a gratified smile. The Xiao's injuries had been delayed for so long. If it could really recover this time, even if it needed the entire dragon's soul bone, he would give it up without hesitation. Most importantly, I think so. The Xiao suddenly said in a low voice. This dragon's soul bone is the eye of the array formation. Although the formation is broken, the dragon's soul bone still has some effects. Therefore, I guess this formation should be used to control the illusory spirit space. How is that possible? The formation is already broken, but the illusory spirit space is still here. Xiaoyan's face was filled with shock when he heard this. He recalled the powerful existence in the Wu Yin meridian. If the formation in the illusory spirit space was broken, with the strength of that expert, he would be able to escape easily. It's different. Currently, the Xiao's mind was unusually nimble. Combined with the experience from his previous life, he had a very thorough understanding of the highest level of the great world. This formation should be the main formation that controls the illusory spirit space. The formation that trapped that guy is the 5 elements energy seizing formation, a division formation. Although the main formation is damaged, the dragon's soul bone's effect is still there. After a pause, the Xiao's voice began to tremble. Apparently, it was frightened by its own speculation. Perhaps the illusory spirit space is constantly drifting in the spatial fault. Due to the existence of the dragon's soul bone, the illusory spirit space will occasionally appear in a year and be used by a few academies. Hearing the Xiao's speculation, Xiaoyan couldn't help but be dumbfounded. It took him a long time to recover from his shock. He looked at the center of the formation in disbelief. The dragon's soul bone was actually something that would occasionally appear in the illusory spirit space. The Xiaoao rolled its eyes and said softly, "Anyway, those elders in the academy have already said that the strength of the demons in the illusory spirit space is getting weaker and weaker. This also means that this space is about to be abandoned and has no effect at all. This dragon's soul bone cannot be wasted, let's just take it away." Xiaoyan couldn't help but hesitate when he heard this. Whether it was the dragon's soul bone or himself, the dragon's soul bone would be of great help to both him and the Xiaoao. However, if he took it away, it would mean that the illusory spirit space would be hidden in the fault of the spatial zone and never appear again. At least for the current 4 academies, it was something that couldn't be allowed to happen. Seeing Xiaoyan hesitate, the Xiaoao seemed to know the reason why Xiaoyan hesitated. It rubbed its face and there was nothing it could do for a moment. Biting his lips, Xiaoyan looked at the center of the formation, unwilling to give up. He wanted to take a closer look, but the dragon's soul bone's mysterious ability was still fresh in his memory, and he didn't dare to rashly open it. The Xiaoao didn't have much to worry about. It squatted down and lifted a corner of its clothes. It carefully observed everything within the formation base. After a long while, it suddenly jumped up in excitement and said, "Oh right. It could also be that the array is already damaged." However, the energy stored in the formation was also maintaining the appearance and disappearance of the illusory spirit space. The dragon's soul bone is the eye of the formation. It can only maintain the stability of the formation. Hearing the Xiaoao's words, Xiaoyan frowned. He suddenly recalled the words of the existence in the blood eye. He said uncertainly, "Do you think this is what that guy said? Is it possible that he has the ability to control the things in the illusory spirit space?" Upon hearing this, the Xiaoao was stunned for a moment. Then, it nodded its head in ecstasy and said, "It's definitely possible. If we use the dragon's soul bone, we should be able to enter the illusory spirit space at any time." After listening to the Xiaoao's analysis, Xiaoyan was even more moved. He took a deep breath and no longer hesitated. Step by step, he walked forward. Under the delighted gaze of the Xiaoao, he squatted down and tightly grabbed the dragon's soul bone that was wrapped in the Xiaoao's clothes. He suddenly exerted strength on both of his arms, and without much effort, he took the dragon's soul bone out from the eye of the formation. Buzz! The moment the dragon's soul bone was taken out, the entire altar seemed to buzz. Immediately, all the stone statues disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the 5 saint nuclei in the formation base were also quietly destroyed. The thing in the eye of the formation has been taken out. This formation will no longer exist. Hurry up and leave. There might be a problem with the altar. The Xiaoao had some knowledge about formations when it was still alive. Immediately, it urged Xiaoyan to leave. The moment the 2 of them stepped out of the altar, the incomparably huge altar suddenly let out a soft buzzing sound. Under the gazes of the 2 of them, it turned into billions of light spots and dissipated, merging into the endless origin monic kiss. "Let's go," Xiaoyan sighed. From now on, illusory spirit space was an ownerless object. He wanted to summon it from the dimensional fracture. It would probably take even more of the elder's attention. Looking at the tightly wrapped dragon's soul bone in his hand, Xiaoyan finally did not have the courage to look at it. After putting it away, he waited for the origin monic key to recover. He walked in the direction that the Xiaoao had come from with great difficulty. Behind him was an empty space. There was not a trace of the existence of the altar. Without the support of the dragon's soul bone, this altar that should have been eroded by time, it also disappeared along with it. Chapter End. Battle Through the Firmament. Grand World. Chapter 390 Green Fire. After passing through the layers of origin key, Xiaoyan felt a sense of emptiness in his body. His legs went weak, and he almost fell to the ground. Xiaoao beside him quickly supported him. Xiaoyan smiled bitterly and took out a medicine pill, swallowing it. The origin key in this space could not be absorbed and refined. Every step he took required a large amount of origin monic ki. He could only rely on the medicine pill to barely maintain it. After resting for a moment, Xiaoyan once again got up and walked along the same path as Xiaoao. Usually, it would only take a few minutes to complete the journey, but now it took him half a day. Not far away, the bewitching blue water droplet was still crazily absorbing the enormous origin monic ki. It was like a bottomless pit, showing no signs of change. Xiaoyan sighed. He sat cross-legged on the ground and took out the dragon's soul bone wrapped in Xiaoao's clothes. He glanced at it before handing it to Xiaoao. The latter's face was filled with joy. Just as he was about to open it, he saw Xiaoyan watching him. He stuck out his tongue and walked to the side, happily examining the dragon's soul bone with his back turned. Xiaoyan's spiritual strength was much sharper than Xiaoao's. It was also because of this that he was drawn to the power contained within the dragon's soul bone, vast and mighty as an ocean. Xiaoyan would unknowingly sink into it. When he was unable to resist its power, he temporarily avoided looking directly at the dragon's soul bone. He saw Xiaoao begin healing the injuries in his body. Xiaoyan was delighted. After such a long time, this little fellow could finally recover. Being unable to absorb and refine the vast origin monic ki in this space was torture. For a moment, Xiaoyan had nothing to do. He couldn't consume origin ki to cultivate the monic skill, so he sat quietly, recalling the deficiencies in his cultivation and the methods Ma Huyang and Lindao had shown him that day, hoping to gain some insight. Xiaoao's expression turned solemn, a stark contrast to his earlier smile. Placing the dragon's soul bone before him, Xiaoao shut his eyes tightly. A surge of energy erupted from his body, and soon, an illusory purple dragon shadow rushed out from the top of his head. The dragon's shadow was tiny. After hovering in the air for a moment, it rushed forward and coiled tightly around the dragon's soul bone. The dark black bone shone with an unusual spiritual light, repeatedly washing over the dragon shadow's illusory body. The dragon shadow swallowed the spiritual light in large gulps, and as the light entered its mouth, it transformed into streams of dragon ki, circulating around its body. At the same time, the trace of sickly fatigue between Xiaoao's eyebrows seemed to fade slowly. "Hey, that little girlfriend of yours is calling you. She said it's time to go out." A cold voice suddenly sounded in Xiaoyan's mind, interrupting his mental cultivation. He glanced at the demonic water droplet still devouring origin monic ki and the motionless Xiaoao. Hesitation flashed in his heart, but as he was about to get up, he noticed a white cloth beside him, wrapped around something. Xiaoyan touched it and recognized it as the dragon's soul bone. It seemed Xiaoao had already used it but hadn't woken up yet. After a moment of hesitation, Xiaoyan decided not to wake Xiaoao and prepared to leave. No matter what, he couldn't let the Academy's people grow suspicious or let Zuna and Kalen worry. "I hope it is useful." Mumbling to himself, Xiaoyan stored the dragon's soul bone wrapped in white cloth. Then, he focused his mind and vaguely sensed a fire source seed within it. The voice resounded again. "How am I going to get out?" Xiaoyan asked quietly through his mind. "This spatial zone belongs to the deepest level. Only I can get you out. Don't even think about leaving alone." A cold voice replied. Instantly, an irresistible force wrapped around Xiaoyan, and in the next moment, he vanished from the spatial zone, leaving only Xiaoao and the blue water droplet behind. Hua! Xiaoyan opened his eyes and found himself in the canyon. Wu Shaoqi stood before him, waiting anxiously. She smiled when she saw him and hurriedly said, "It's time. The spatial crack has appeared. Let's hurry and leave, or the Elder's origin key won't hold much longer. We'll have to wait for the next opportunity otherwise." Nodding, Xiaoyan turned and cupped his fists at Blood Eye. "I've gained insights into my cultivation in that spatial zone. Please send me in again next time." Without waiting for Blood Eye's response, he pulled Wu Shaoqi and rushed out of the canyon. The oppressive origin key in the spatial zone had made every step arduous, but now, speeding through the open space felt exhilarating. "Bastard brat, what did you say?" Blood Eye roared in a hoarse voice after a moment of stunned silence. Xiaoyan had already consumed nearly half of his origin key to enter the canyon, and now this brat wanted to go back in. Did he think the spatial zone was his home, where he could come and go as he pleased? As his anger subsided, Blood Eye muttered to himself, this guy, could his strength really increase? But if he survives, that's good too. I've heard there are treasures inside the altar. Once I have a body, I must go in and look for them. I wonder if the 108 stone golems are still usable. After his muttering, Blood Eye transformed into a boundless sea of blood and settled back into the valley. By the way, how did you call that guy out? Xiaoyan suddenly asked Wu Shaoqi curiously. He had used the monic flame to summon Blood Eye, but Wu Shaoqi had managed it without it. Wu Shaoqi chuckled, raising her arm and gently moving her fingers. A burning green flame emerged from her palm, swaying like a green lotus in the wind as they ran. This is the flame I've comprehended these days. According to the Fire Emperor scripture, it condenses the fire source key in my body into a flame, the green fiery flame. At its peak, it surpasses even an ordinary monic flame. So powerful, Xiaoyan sighed, finding it reasonable. Flame Lord's mastery of the Fire Emperor scripture far exceeded Wu Shaoqi's current strength, and the scripture itself was at least a saint-grade cultivation technique. I called him out the same way you did. He seemed to recognize me, so he didn't argue and brought you out. Recalling Blood Eye's roar, Wu Shaoqi stuck out her tongue. Xiaoyan nodded, keeping the matter of the dragon's soul bone buried deep in his heart. Until his strength grew, not even Zuna or Kalen could know. It wasn't distrust but the sheer magnitude of the consequences. If others learned of it, even Yunlo Academy might face danger. For the overlords of the pill world with ancient stage soul strength, the dragon's soul bone was enough to make them abandon everything. Exiting the canyon, the two immediately spotted a spatial crack nearby. Without hesitation, they flashed through it. The crack trembled and sealed shut behind them. The elders outside had exhausted their origin key. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.